All right, so this is going to be a little bit. This was not what I fully intended tonight. So because I lost the clip that I was going to review tonight, but the clip was, and you may have seen it on Instagram. It was of a women's goalie who she was a righty goalie. Uh, Attacker comes across the face, brings a stick back, and goalie makes a save off her left shoulder, like right where there's no chest protector, or kind of maybe on that seam where the edge of the chest protector is. But but what ended up happening was that the offensive player basically shot the ball into her chest. Um, um, ooh, Ryland, I see your question there. I'm gonna have to get back to that. So apologize. Um, you're talking high school lifts, right? Like you're in the weight room doing the same stuff. I'll talk about that at the end, Rylan. I'll use that as a separate question. Okay. All right. So sorry, guys. A little bit off topic there. Late question coming in. All right. So the video was of this women's goalie making the save, and I joked, I'm like, did the goalie make the save or not? And so I was last year when that Loyola goalie, I think it was Loyola, right? Uh, Made that save. Guy comes across the crease, and everybody's like, oh my god, the goalie made this incredible save. I'm like, the guy basically shot it into him. Okay, now what I will just clarify here is that, you know, I come across sometimes as being harsh, but as a goalie, we all know that time when we made a save, but we actually didn't move. Now, there's two things to that. One is if the offensive player makes a bad shot, a bad shooting decision, we want to acknowledge that. Okay. But the flip side of that is that goalies need to basically have more self-esteem, right? As goalies, we are receptive. You could describe goalies as being quite female, right? And shooters are quite male. All right. And yes, all those. If that offends you, click away. Because don't be a flower. Um, but my point is that the idea here is that the act of being a goalie is like we're reactive, right? And a shooter is proactive. So if a shooter makes a bad decision, that can be caused by the proactive nature of a goalie. But a lot of goalies treat being a goalie like they are just like passive to everything. Like they expect that every shot from the shooter is going to hit the net, right? And they forget that you can make a shooter depending on the situation, you can make a shooter decide to pass the ball, to not shoot, to try to be really accurate, and then therefore they miss, or try to pick a corner and they hit the post. All those things, or they hit you as the goalie, like because they're just freaking out a little bit in their head. We need to encourage goalies to be in the shooter's head, not vice versa. And that's really important. Okay. So we want your goalie to step on the field and be a game changer, right? That's my motto, changing the game one goalie at a time. And that starts with the goalie stepping on the field and going like, no, I own you. Right. I own you. And I call it being respectfully disagreeable, right? Sport is all about being disagreeable, right? Oh, you shot that ball top corner. I disagree with that shot. I will make that save. Right. And so we want to empower our goalies to do that. Now, sometimes goalies get into the cage because they are meek, but they like the game, or they're quiet, but they like the game, or maybe they're not as athletic as everybody on the field, but they like the game and they end up in the crease. And that's awesome, right? We want that. But slowly over time, we're going to take that athlete and turn them into a more empowered human being that now starts to go, all right, you've got the ball, you're going to shoot. All right, I'm a righty, you're shooting from over there. Like, we're going to take all these things to account, and you're going to make them either decide not to shoot, to pass the ball, to try to pick a corner. That results in them missing the ball or missing the cage or hitting the post, right? Or hitting you. Like, that's awesome. Okay. So, this save that this girl's goalie made, collegiate goalie, I was like, all right, cool. One of the reasons why she made the save was she was out at the shooter. Okay. She was out at the top of the crease. And that, I think, surprised the shooter a little bit. and the shooter ended up shooting that ball like right into her shoulder. The goalie actually didn't have to move to make the save. She was already there. So just like if your goalie was bigger than they are, that improves their what I call their base save potential. Okay. Right. So if I take a big goalie and put him in the cage, and I take a little goalie and I put him in the cage, one is going to cover more surface area than the other. This is like high school math. All right. Which a lot of us have forgotten. I get it. My son's at grade 11 and at a private school, and I'm just like, I don't know how I got through school not having to do sine, cosine, or own a scientific calculator, but I did. I'm not sure how that happened. That's obviously a big crack I fell through. Um, but but what we want to encourage our goalies to do, okay? So regardless of how you look at that save in this case, like whether you think the goalie was really active or the player shot, I'm like, I think it's a benefit. But I want people to know, and I want your goalie to know that sometimes that they'll make a save and they'll know like, oh, that kid just shot me straight at the chest. Right? Like, this is why I was watching a clip of, Blaze Reardon, and he made a save, and the announcer was like, "Ah, great save, Blaze Reardon," and I'm like, "Dude, that guy just shot it right in his stick. He didn't have to move at all." Right? But part of that is you start to kinda calculate, well, what was going through the shooter's head? Were they kinda freaking out a little bit? Like, "Oh my god, it's Blaze Reardon." Your goalie will have that too. Right? You guys all know that. Doesn't matter what age your kids are. If you're going up against a team that has a good goalie, all the parents on the sideline are incorrectly. They're going like, "Oh, dang it, that goalie's really good." Right? Oh, and then you get that. Pardon me, that complete douchebag of a parent who's like telling the team, "Oh, this goalie's really good. We got to get our shot." No, just shut up. Like, just you're not helping. Okay. Um, but the problem is, I want you to understand that your goalie needs to be like proactive in their thinking. And so how do we do that? How do we create that? Well, one of the best ways to help your goalie be more of a force in the cage is to make them physically more capable. Okay? So this kind of goes back to my first question, and this goes back to why like I've seen so many athletes benefit and non-athletes benefit from work in a gym. Okay? Getting around weight room. Oh, my goalie's 8, you say. So what? They can lift a dumbbell. You get them around a good qualified strength and conditioning coach, they can take a young athlete and do wonders with them. And yes, they can lift weights, and no, they're not gonna stunt their growth. Okay, that's a big myth. But the idea here is that we can improve our goalie in the cage by making them a better athletic human being, okay? Right, and that doesn't mean, like, mixing strength and conditioning work with goalie work. One of the things that I can't stand to see is goalies holding a stick trying to do an agility ladder. That is, like, the worst coaching possible, right? That is like, you're crap at the goalie movement in that moment, and you're crap at the ladder, so you're not doing anything right. You're like a triathlete who can't swim or can't run and can't, all like, it's just like, that's the joke about triathletes, if you don't understand that, is that marathon runners thinks anyway, whatever, I'll get away with that. But the idea is that get your you know, get your athlete, like, stronger physically, okay? The second thing, position-wise in the cage, is don't let them shrink. One of my pet peeves about, like, the goalie chest protector fiasco that lacrosse goalies have is that I believe that the hands that bottom hand coming in front of a goalie and the elbows coming together is really a way for a goalie to protect their chest, right? They're just not comfortable absorbing a ball with their chest. Okay. Now, what's interesting is like you look at an ice hockey goalie, they train to use their chest protector and their jersey to basically to absorb that puck. You don't see very rarely do you see a hockey goalie bringing their glove in front of their chest to try to catch the puck. Why? Because they're just gonna make the save. They know that if they think like that, if they think to bring the glove in front of them, they're actually limiting their ability to make a save when that puck actually comes to their glove hand, which is a lot like a lacrosse goalie trying to make a save with one hand. That's what we're basically doing, right? So your goalie, I guarantee you, your goalie is not comfortable taking shots to the chest with a lacrosse ball, male or female. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I think that stance has kind of happened. And what that's done is made goalies shrink. And now there's massive amounts of net on either side of them. Okay. Because that's, the bottom hand has come like, either all the way across or it's in front of their balls, or their lady balls. But, we want to adopt more of that, angular stick position. Joel Rose, like Colton has, like Adam Gittleman's, that's the stance. Why? I won't get into all that detail now, but you get my point, okay? I hope you get my point. So don't shrink, don't get narrow, don't be meek, okay? Now, a lot of goalies, the goalie position is fascinating because of the type of athlete it attracts, in my opinion. It's the athlete may be extroverted, but they're very internally motivated. They understand. They're very introspective. Okay, they um, they are very um, like people say like, oh, the goalie's crazy, and I'm like, no, that's complete crap. Your goalie is probably the most self-centered person on the team, right? They understand how they're feeling. They understand they're in their head constantly, right? And that's really, really important. Okay. Um, Cerebral usually equates to smarts, but I know what you're saying there. The idea though is that they're very conscientious typically. They don't want to let people down. So we need to change that though, right? We want to make sure that our goalie is also willing to take risks and the goalie position doesn't really allow that, right? Because if a goalie takes a risk and they fail, the ball's in the back of the net, right? So we want our goalies to, we want to develop that somehow, right? A lot of the goalie audits that I do for my goalies, a lot of times they'll have a teammate or a couple teammates that are they're jerks. And yet we want our goalie to be able to communicate and direct and do all that stuff. Well, that takes a level of courage. Okay. It's a level of courage we want them to take. And it's not confidence they need, it's courage. So we want to develop courage. I want my goalies to come out. I want my goalies to be taking up a lot of the net, especially in time and room shots from outside, boys and girls, because I want them to look big in the cage and I want that player to miss. It will up the rates of them missing. Okay. The idea then is that we want them to, uh, we want them to do their own stats, watch videos, see what they're doing well, see what they're not doing well. We want to accelerate their improvement as quickly as possible. Okay. And then we want them, in a game, if we can get a couple saves under our belt early as a goalie, helps our confidence, but it also helps kind of set the tone, right? As every goalie understands, you let a couple beach balls in, like, beginning in the game or beginning of your shift, and the other team's like, wow, we can shoot anywhere and it's going to go in on this kid. We make a couple saves and they're like, no, 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 we got to be careful here. We don't want to throw up any beach balls at that kid. And because they're going to, make the save and then clear it fast and throw it down our throats, right? Really important. Okay. The ultimate sign of respect, okay, in my opinion, is when your goalie's getting shot on in a game and a player misses. Okay. This is especially true for the girls on those 8-meter shots when uh, you know, it's like an uncontested shot and they miss the net. To me, that's the ultimate sign of respect for a goalie because that shooter was trying to pick a corner. They were trying to get the ball as far away from the goalie as possible, but still inside the cage that the goalie couldn't get it, right? But they missed. And that's a sign that shooter was like, yeah, the really respecting the goalie, right? So when you see that happen, make sure you tell your goalie, great job, right? Like, I tell my goalies, like, if your defenseman makes a play and it forces the ball carrier to make a pass and they throw it out of bounds, like, I want to reward my defenseman. Like, that's a great job, man. That was either a good poke check or you're a good position or whatever, but I want to reward that because, that's part of the game. And all too often teams get very siloed. The goalie's playing their position and the defenders are playing their position and the midfielders are playing their position. And it's just like, whatever, it's like we're all individuals on a field and we lose the team concept that all the college coaches hope they have once they get there. And they're horrible at it. So really, really important. Okay. So, does that make sense to you, to your goalies? Like, what are some things that maybe your goalies have done, or maybe that you've done with your goalie to help develop that courage and that self confidence, and to get bigger in the cage, to be aggressive. That's one of the things that I can't stand is that, especially in the pro ranks, we see teams, we see goalies like far back in the cage. Let me see if I can pull up this video here. And oh my god, this will be so cool if I can do this. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, there it is. We're gonna do this one. So if you watch your screen, here's one. Pause that. Okay, going here. All right. So if you look at your screen, I'll try to pull this up. This was Epic Lacrosse. Just pull this off of their screen. I'm a little off center here, but this is a bounce shot that looked like it checked up pretty deep and pretty weird. And I'll see if I can I don't have the resolution I want to have here. So this is a shot from a long pole, right? Out at the 2-point line. And you'll notice the ball kind of checks up in the dirt. But you see the positioning. I can't tell which goalie this is. Okay. But part of goalies being meek and receptive is this idea that, okay, well, like when they're so far back in the cage, they have more time to react to the ball. That to me is the sign of a passive goalie. And that is not, that's why like a goalie that is going to be more aggressive and is going to cause this player basically puts the ball in the cage in like the middle of the net. It doesn't, it's like a foot inside the post. That's horrible goaltending, in my opinion. Okay. Right. There's this shooter felt inclined to just kind of put it somewhere on the cage and it went in. And now the interesting thing from a goalie perspective here, if you guys can see this, is that it's a little low, isn't it? Hold on. Let me reset my source here and see if I can get a better angle here. Um, that's a little bit better. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So the only reason a goalie would not come out is if they feel like, oh, they don't have enough time to react to the ball, which I get, but then they're also not using more of their body to make the saves. The other problem with lacrosse goalies is lacrosse goalies don't spend nearly enough time. They don't spend nearly enough time working on bounce shots. All right. Why? Because they hurt. If you train bounce shots, you're going to take them off your body and they're going to hurt. And at the pro ranks, I believe that we're seeing goalies that haven't spent enough time making those saves. Let me see if I can hide that banner. That's a little bit more. Um, that that's really, it's really important, to see this. So a goalie that a lot of bounce shots, the goalie will train it like it's a low shot, like it's going below their knees, but this bounces up past their chest. A goalie that has spent a lot of time reading a shot will know that, okay, that when a long pole is shooting and the stick is at this angle, right, right, is at this angle, that ball is going to go one, it's going to go low first, but then two, it's going to bounce somewhere out in front of me. So when it bounces out here at that velocity and that angle, this is all processed in an instant, guys. Like, so this takes tons of training, thousands of repetitions. That ball is going to bounce, and now it's going to bounce up. It's not going to bounce low. So that ball bounces, but the goalie is still going down. The goalie goes down, and now he reverses it. But what I would like to see here is a goalie who recognizes the ball is going in a certain third of the net, and they just move laterally. And so then they've got their upper body in the upper third, they've got their torso in the middle third, and their legs are going to absorb that ball if it goes low, right? But this is just a goalie that's basically stuck in the center of the cage deep and just drops their knees. All right. And then they're in trouble, right? This might have been Cannon. I'm not sure. But that to me is not, that's where to me, the lacrosse goalie of the future is going to make more of those saves. Okay. And that's really important to understand. Another clip I have here. Uh, this was another one. Gonna have to reset that. Hang on. Let me just delete that and delete that. And we're going to screen capture. And we're going to screen capture this. Hang tight, guys. Okay, so this is Brian Phipps in the cage, and we're just going to talk. I was going to use this on my last clip today. So this player is coming around the back of the cage. Okay, now as a goalie, you can see right there. I'll blow this up. Sorry. Boom. Okay. There's the goalie's knee. Okay, there's the goalie's knee right here, and so as the angles change in this case, okay, if a goalie's going to play passively, all right, if a goalie's going to play really passively, let me get my that's better. Now you can see more of that. And they're the deepest they can be in the cage, then a goalie then has to move laterally to make this save. Okay. They have to move laterally to make this save. Right. And so what happens here is the goalie is basically stuck to the post. So this is Brian Phipps. So there's his right leg right there. And this is his, or sorry, that was his left leg. This is his right leg right here. So, but the player's stick is way out here, and there's the ball. Okay. So fundamentally, as a goalie, this goalie has to flood across the cage, like flood over the opposite pipe, because we're trying to save this space. Okay. All right. So, and we know that as the player comes higher than goal line, right? We know that higher than goal line. And this is a right-handed goalie. This is not a left-handed goalie. So this should be an easier save to have the potential to make. Unfortunately, what happens here is that this gets completely bastardized. So it's a bounce shot, and then the goalie just drops. But the goalie is in the same position. The goalie hasn't moved at all. All right. The goalie hasn't moved at all to cover that far side. So this is where, in my opinion, a goalie who is more protected over time decides to make more of these saves with their body, right? And they're therefore more capable of flooding into that space with their body and making a save with something that may not be the stick head. Okay. So what happens here is this ball takes a ridiculous bounce. It actually is not a ridiculous bounce, it just bounces. But because the goalie has basically not moved off this post, right? All he's done is rotated his torso. He hasn't really moved across. That ball just bounces by, and the ball bounces in the cage like 2 feet away from that far post. So that's not a lot of respect for a goalie in this case, right? And these are signs where I just go like the lacrosse goalie position is not impactful enough, right? It's just and this is like your pro goalie, and Brian Phipps is a good dude, you know. But this to me is a sign of a goalie over years and years who just hasn't really developed that part of their game. Why? Because culturally we just teach goalies to save balls with their stick, and that makes me sad. Okay. Alex writes, I watched the videos where my 2026 scared the crap out of the shooter when he came out at them. Good reinforcement of what I keep telling him. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to be stupid, but there are, um, just hands down, if you can add that to your repertoire, I just fundamentally believe you're going to reap better rewards by doing that. Jill Rose writes, we are working on effing with shooters. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. We are working on effing with shooters by stepping out at the shooter while they're in their backswing. Often throws them off and makes them alter their shot. Where have you heard that one? That's awesome, Joel. Like it's the evolution. Like to me, it's the evolution of lacrosse. The goalies that start doing that they will place doubt in the shooter's mind, and you're doing the exactly right thing. And by the time he gets to high school, like late high school and college, he's going to be a game changer. Okay. JD Colarusso, are you sharing that, Alex? You might have to send them a message if you're just dropping a name in here. Just a heads up. Okay. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com and check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.